What is up, everybody? It is I, Mr. Cinema Junkie, and I am just here, not doing a whole lot of anything really. It is currently 5:10 p.m. I always say it's 5 o'clock somewhere, so I guess that's good enough for me. Damn, that's good. So how is everybody doing? I am doing splendid. This video is not going to be any kind of review or unpackaging. It's just going to be talking about a couple of really quick subjects. Let's start off with Dread Central and Mr. Dark, who wrote a less than flattering review about the screening at Texas Frightmare Weekend of Bloodshock, which is the second part of the American Guinea Pig series. I was in attendance at that screening, as were quite a few other people. I didn't get a head count, I didn't see, but there were quite a few people in there. Understand that Bloodshock was a midnight screening. It was shown Saturday evening. Saturday is like the apex of Texas Frightmare Weekend. It starts earlier. It's an all-day thing. You got panels, you've got floor discussions, you've got photo ops, you've got screenings for the better part of the evening. This was like the final event of the night, as far as screenings went anyway. And so I put that there I said that for a reason. I'll get back to that in just a little bit. I'm not going to talk about his opinion of the movie, because everyone is entitled to an opinion. You can like something, not like something. Your opinion can differ from everybody else's. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But it seems to me that he's got a few little things that he's throwing out there that are, I don't know, they seem like he's trying to get a little personal. You know what I mean? I mean, he's not really judging the movie on its merits. Like, you know, if he didn't get the storyline, or if he didn't understand, you know, what was going on, or maybe he understood it, but he just didn't care for the tone it took, fine. But when you start, like, just saying things like, oh, there were people audibly snoring in the audience, which isn't a good sign. Okay, first of all, I was there. I didn't hear anybody snoring. Maybe he was sitting next to someone who fell asleep and he heard that and thought, oh, well, that's funny, somebody fell asleep during it. But like I said, there's quite a few people there. So if two people out of a crowd of people who had been at it all day long fell asleep, let's focus more on the people who didn't fall asleep and stuck around to the very end. I even noticed a couple of people left early, but they probably go into their rooms to go to sleep. I'm telling you, I'm one of those people that if I get tired, I'll knock right out. And I was tired, so there were times when I had to fight sleep, not because the movie was boring me, but because my brain was shutting down on me. But I stayed to the end. I stayed to the very end. I even got to meet Kat, Marcus, Steven. I got to meet them afterwards, and they're, you know, really cool people. So, but back to what I was saying. He made some references in there to the original Guinea Pig series, saying that first off, Marcus Cook made a mistake filming in black and white because he forgot what made the original series, and it was the blood, and that takes away when you use black and white. You don't get to see the blood and the red and the color and all that. And it's like, you know what else? You know what else the original had flaws, big flaws. Um, my favorite of that series is Flowers of Flesh and Blood. The next one I saw after that was Devil's Experiment, or yeah, Devil's Experiment, and it was just a ongoing torture deal. And although the effects were really good, the only real big saving grace to that was the scene with the needle through the eye. Very realistic, nailed it completely. But there were other parts, like when they're slapping her around, they're visibly holding her chin with their hand and smacking their hand. You can see them smacking the palm of their hand. And that really takes away from it. But it's still hailed as some type of masterpiece, and I still like the movie. But making more out of it than it is and saying, oh well, you need to live up to those standards of the original, and it's like, well, no. First of all, American Guinea Pig is not supposed to be a carbon copy of the original. They're not just simply Americanizing the Japanese storyline. He also said, and if you go to read the story, you'll see plenty of comments where people say, hey man, Bloodshot is not the first in the American Guinea Pig series. He kept saying that it was the first one, and he goes on to say that Marcus and Steven said it was the first one. They did not say that. In fact, he even says, Mr. Dark even said, they referenced the original Japanese series and then they referenced Bloodshot. Okay, if that was true, there's nothing wrong with that, because of course they'd reference the original and give, credit to the original, and then they would present the movie they were screening. But the truth is, American Guinea Pig, Bouquet of Guts and Gore, he mentions that because he said, I didn't want to make another snuff film. With Bloodshot, he wanted to kind of get away from the snuff aspect of Bouquet of Guts and Gore. So, my tongue is like, bleh, not working with me. Bouquet of Guts and Gore. Sorry. But he did mention it. Maybe Mr. Dark missed that. Maybe he didn't catch that. Maybe when he heard that, he automatically thought he was talking about the original Japanese series. I caught it. I'm sure more than a few people caught it. But there are some people in the audience, I think, that didn't know there was a first part, but it didn't confuse them to find out that there was a first part, because they went and bought it the next day, according to Marcus, who just told me that. So yeah, it's just little things like that. Like you're trying to not just criticize a movie, but you're trying to bury it at the same time. You're trying to just really pick it apart and say a lot of things like, oh, these guys don't know what they're doing, and they're saying a lot of misrepresenting things, and that's not true. I mean, he even went as far as to say that the premise of the movie is that the doctor is torturing the patients to release endorphins into the blood, and then the blood is used as kind of a drug. He gets high on it and stuff, and they're harvesting the blood with the extra endorphins in it. And he goes so far as to say that's not medically accurate. Then slides in the little, but we're not here for medical accuracy. Well, if we're not here for medical accuracy, why bring it up? Nobody questioned the accuracy of that because nobody cared, okay? This is why people can go into a movie like Return of the Living Dead and say, oh yeah, 2,4,5-trioxin, it'll bring people back to life. Reanimator, some glowing green shit, that'll work. You gotta suspend disbelief to enjoy certain movies. That's not just in the horror world either. Look at Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Did you think adrenochrome was real? It's not. But it sounds feasible. And he got a little defensive in the comments. And I probably would have too if people were like getting on my ass about stuff. But they were not doing anything. They're not saying anything out of line. They were telling him that he doesn't have all his facts straight. I don't know. I think I would do a little more research before I wrote a paper or wrote an article along those lines. if I was really nitpicking at details. He also said about the effects. He made mention of the effects, and he said something about, you know, the torture scenes were boring. It's like, okay, you cut open the guy's leg and you broke his bone, and then you keep breaking the bone, and people are waiting for something else to happen. People are wondering what's next. I don't know if who was doing that. I don't know who in the audience was going, oh man, this again, except for him, because each time he did it, each time that scene came up, and I don't want to talk too much about the movie because I don't want to give it away for anybody who hasn't seen it yet, but each time he did it, it was cringeworthy. Pulling the teeth and all that other stuff that he did, which is on the cover, so I don't think I gave anything away there. But it's, I mean, it was not a boring movie, not to me anyway, and not to quite a few people who were there. Plenty of people were applauding. Nobody booed. Nobody walked out. Nobody, you know, said anything like, you should have done this differently. No one said anything like that. And I didn't hear anyone say that, including him. He was there. So I guess he was saving it for his article, I mean, not his interview. But yeah, I mean, the original series has its place in cinematic history, of course, but as a whole, the movies weren't that damn great. I mean, the worst of the series was Devil Doctor Woman. You talk about some cheap shots and some cheesy effects. I mean, there's actually a part in that movie where the guy says, "Oh yeah, she transplanted a piece of my heart into my nose," and he goes, like a heartbeat. And it's like, okay, was that supposed to like shock and throw me? More funny than anything. I mean, it's kind of silly. He says, "Oh, my throat." He does a little thing with his throat. And so yeah, I mean, maybe they were original, but they weren't without their flaws. And he said, he talked about the black and white filming like it was like this major disruptive move, and like almost like it was a disrespectful move to the original series. The black and white was stark. Okay, it was like a throwback to times of like the movie Psycho. Blood in the Shower. It was filmed in black and white, but you knew you were looking at blood. You knew what you were looking at, and black and white didn't affect that at all. Okay, if you're counting so much on the blood being red, I see plenty of movies where the blood is different shades of red. They got some blood that looks like red water. They have some blood that looks like almost black syrup, and they have some blood that's a little too transparent and too shiny, and it looks too much like stuff you'd buy at the Halloween store. So if you're counting so much on the blood looking like blood and it has to be a certain color and all that, you're going to be fairly disappointed in a lot of movies that you see. Okay? So you got to get over that. He gives away some of the movie in there. I'm not going to do that. I am going to say this. Bloodshot, to me, was an epic film. It was just mind-boggling epic to me. All right, I'm not speaking for everybody else. This is just my opinion. And the facts of the movie, I'll leave to people who are a little more technically savvy than I am, and he is. But that's about all I got to say on that subject. Next subject is a little company that I've just done business with. Maybe you've heard of them. This was going to be its own video, but I decided to add it in on this one. Excalibur Films. Now, Excalibur Films, what I remember, Excalibur in the 80s was strictly a porno operation. They had porn. Along with companies such as Atom Films, ATOM, Atom Films, Caballero, Home Video, Swedish Erotica, things like that. back in the 80s, when I was a teenager, getting adult movies was not a hard thing to do. You either borrowed them from a friend whose dad had them, or you went to one of the low-end video stores who would rent to anybody. They just wanted their $5. Or there were little shops that would sell them from under the counter. That's sometimes where I would buy mine. Or if you were really, really, really desperate, and as an adolescent, uh, when puberty was kicking in, I was super desperate. You could mess with the TV and get that scrambled channel to straighten out just enough to see some titties. Okay? So I said all that to say this. Some of the titles from the 80s are rather nostalgic for me. They don't hold the same sway they did back then, where it's kind of like, oh man, it's like really hot, really, whatever. Because back then, a stiff breeze is all I needed back when I was a kid. Now it takes just a little bit more to get the whole brain working and sending the messages to the right recipient. But anyways, I was looking up some of the titles from yesteryear, and I found them. And there was one called RX for Sex, which was originally an Italian or a French. Yeah, it was French, I believe. But it was dubbed over in English, and the words they used, the script they used was so hysterical that that's what stood out most of all. I can't really talk about what they said, but believe me, it was just hysterical. And another one that did the same thing was one called Pleasure So Deep. Now that one was an Italian one, but it was dubbed over in English and used really bad dialogue. And as far as like one of those scrambled channel movies, there was one called Pussycat Ranch. Now that one has kind of a little funny story to it. We had a black and white TV. If you're old like me, you remember the dials that would change the channel. We didn't have like remote controls. You had to actually walk up and change the channels. And the bottom one had all like the 32, 33, 34 numbers. And if you changed it too fast, your mom would yell at you, "Don't change that damn channel so fast, you're gonna break it." You know? But that was one of the channels. 44 was the one that carried the cable signal for a cable system called On TV. And that's after 11 o'clock at night. That's when they started showing the adult movies. They didn't show a lot, but they showed a lot more than I ever saw. So one night, my mom took off with a couple of friends, and my grandparents used to live downstairs from us in the downstairs apartment. So she didn't think anything of leaving us by ourselves in our apartment, because my grandparents were right downstairs. But it was me and my brother alone all the time. So when my brother went to sleep, it was time for me to get on channel 44 and see what was popping, right? And I was watching, I was like real close, because you had to turn the volume way up to hear anything too. They had the volume down, way down. So I was messing with the channel, I had it straightened out, and my little brother comes walking out saying, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Get out of here, go on, get out. You're not supposed to watch this stuff," and covering the TV, acting all, righteous. He was 4 years younger than me, and I was about 11 at the time. So yeah, I had no business watching it either. But on this occasion specifically, they were showing a movie called Pussycat Ranch, and I sent him to the living room, which was 2 rooms away from where I was at. And he walked off all mad. Man, it's not fair, man. He walked off pissed. We had a color TV in the living room, but it had the buttons that you had to change the channel with. Mine had the dial, the black and white TV had the dial, and you could just barely turn it just before it changed channels. It would straighten out. Well, about 3 minutes later, he comes busting into the room. I'm covering the TV again, and he's singing the theme song to the porno movie. Gotta keep them girls on the Pussycat Ranch. He's singing that and clapping his hands and shit. And I'm like, "You got it to work on the color TV?" I didn't care anymore. I wanted to go see it in color. Holy shit, color movies. So I found that title, Pussycat Ranch. I found a couple other titles. Getting back to what I was talking about, Excalibur Films carried these, and they had the covers that I remembered from back then. Pleasure So Deep had the exact same cover that was set out by Atom Films. RX for Sex was from Atom Films. I'm not sure who put out Pussycat Ranch. I really don't know. Teenage Deviant was funny too, because they had Annie Sprinkle, and she's messing around with her cousin's husband, and she's blowing the dude. He talks her into giving him head, and she's blowing him, and she looks up at him and says, "You like me, don't you?" And he says, "You're all right." And that is hysterical. Just, "You're all right," whatever the fuck ever. So those are why I ordered these movies, because of the nostalgia, because it's hysterical. Now, having said all that, here's my problem. They showed the original cover art, okay? But what I received was this. And this. And you have the little ID numbers right there. And if that isn't enough for you, even though you can plainly see it says DVD video, right? That is a DVD-R. That purple hue gives it away. It's a DVD-R, man. Now, here's the thing. Here's my hang up about that. One, I would have liked to have known that it was a DVD-R, that it was a copy. Okay? I mean, all DVDs are a copy, basically, but I would have liked to have known that I was getting DVD-Rs, right? The other problem I have, and this is a bigger problem, is that they didn't send the entire order. They sent some titles, but not all of them. I wrote to them and asked them what happened. They said, "Oh, we're out of stock of the other titles." Okay. If you're making copies onto a DVD-R, the only way you're out of stock is that you just didn't have the title at all. You know what I mean? There should be like a main digital file, or even an actual physical disc that you just copy the movie from onto a DVD-R and send the damn DVD-R out. How are you, unless you ran out of the burned copies, how much effort does it take to throw the damn thing into a disc duplicator and burn it and give me my disc? I mean, this is not one of those high-end operations where, like, oh, we carry like top quality copies of these movies and here you go. Now, another thing is, I didn't know this, but any orders over, I think, $50 entitled me to a free movie. So I'm looking at all their titles, and Bare Butt Bonanza #6 and Blow Me Dry Volume 7, and I'm just like, oh God, man, no, none of it is catching my attention. One that caught my attention was from the Caught From Behind series, had Nina Hartley. I had kind of a crush on Nina Hartley when I was younger. Tracy Lords too, but yeah, it was like the first time I ever saw her do anal, and I was like, oh. But as I was looking through the titles, one title popped up, Dr. Caligari. Now, I like Dr. Caligari. It's a very strange, very weird flick. Anyone who's seen it knows exactly what I'm talking about. I love that movie. And I said, wow, I can have that for free because I've never owned that movie. Awesome. Send it. Now, remember, they send my movies in cases like this, with just the title on it and Excalibur across the top, little description on the back. Yeah, there's no nudity there, so a little description on the back of the movie. So when I saw those two, I said, oh man, that's how they sent Dr. Caligari. Shit. Nope. This is what they sent. Free movie rewards. Is what they're doing legal? I'd like to think they have the rights to do it. They bought the rights to these movies, or they, own the rights to them, so they can do this without any repercussion, and it's not going to fall back on me for buying a bootleg DVD. But if I find out that they're just making bootleg copies of movies, I'm going to be a little upset because I could go to iOffer if I wanted to go that route and pay a lot less. Yeah, that's another thing. If you're making DVD-R copies of movies, then there goes the rarity of that movie. You know what I mean? If it's the last copy on earth, the last legit copy, but you got a stack of 100 DVD-Rs and you make 100 copies of that movie, it's not so rare anymore. Why is it that these movies are all different prices? $7.99, $9.99. Teenage Deviant was $19.99. I'm going to hate getting it and seeing that I got one of those labels and one of these discs. So I'm going to do a little more research on Excalibur Films and see exactly what's up with that. Because something a little fishy there. And I was going to get into a whole other thing about a certain reviewer on YouTube who's, you know, one of those overly opinionated assholes. But you know what? Not even going to get into it. Not even gonna get into that right now. It's not even worth the time or the effort, really. He got told, he got served, he got checked, and to me, he got made to look fairly dealt with. Yeah, I'll say that, dealt with. But yeah, that's it right now. Mr. Dark from Dread Central, seriously, man, get your facts straight. That's sorry, but you can blame it on somebody misrepresenting the film, which I know they did not. You can blame it on you know, this, that, and the other, and then you can go ahead and start running down the flaws in the filmmaking. It's like I always say, those who can do, those who can't criticize. So, I mean, honest to God, I've seen flawed effects work. In my head, in my eyes, I've seen effects work that was less than good. That was less than perfect. I've seen it, plenty of it. Super cheesy. And even that I wouldn't pick it apart because you know what? I'm not the one doing it. Okay? Everyone pretty much knows one of my favorite movies to bag on is House of the Dead. Yui Ball's House of the Dead. I hate that movie with a passion. And I often have said, with the kind of money that they poured into that movie, I would have expected something better. But the truth is, if someone handed me that budget and said, here's $3-4 million, go make us a movie, go make a horror movie, I wouldn't do it because I don't know the first thing about making a horror movie. I don't know the first thing about making a movie. I want to make one, and I'm gonna make one eventually, and it's gonna have a budget of about $50, but I'm really gonna make it stretch. You know what I mean? Yeah, I wouldn't take anyone's money and run with it and try to make a movie because I don't know where half that budget goes. I don't know. I mean, I know about, you know, buying stuff for the special effects and the cameras and all that other jazz. I know you're supposed to have that stuff, but as far as like the technical aspects of everything, I don't know anything about that. I'm that point and shoot kind of guy. I mean, look at the video I'm making right now. Does this look like it has any production value? Hell no. That's why I don't ask anybody to pour money into my channel or do a GoFundMe or Indiegogo or any of that stuff. And you know, here's my patron site. You know, pay for this and help support this channel. Support what? Shit, just point the camera at me and I ramble on and on. There's no overhead here. The electricity I'm using. You want to buy me lunch? That'd be great. I could go for that, but there's no production value here whatsoever. There's no editing, no green screen, none of that stuff. The editing I do is very rough. I'll take 2 pieces of a video, throw away the part I don't want, put it together, and you see that huge jump cut. So yeah, I'm not in any position to talk shit about somebody's work. All I can do is say whether it was for me or not for me. And then if you value my opinion that much, maybe you'll say, well, you know what, I'll skip that one. Or, you know what, I'm going to give it a shot anyway. I might like it. It might appeal to me. And that's great. And if you have a different opinion from mine, then we can sit and talk about what you liked about it, what I didn't, or vice versa. But I would never be like, you know what the fuck you're talking about? Shit, get the fuck out of my face. Heathen, go watch your shitty movies. I wouldn't do that. So, yeah. I just think, quite frankly, if I had to sum up Mr. Dark's review of Bloodshot, one word comes to mind, and it's lazy. That's it. Lazy. It's like absolutely no research, nothing was done, no second checking, no fact checking, nothing. Just, that's what I heard, so I put it right here, and then right you. That's it. Quite frankly, anybody that's watching this video right now can do that. Any of you can do that, what he did. That's a fact. Not everybody can go out and make a movie like Marcus Cook did. No, not everybody can do that. But anyone can sit down and write half facts and assumptions and misrepresentations on their own part. Anyone can do that. So, why I don't go further in life, I have no idea. I'm comfortable where I'm at, I guess. I think that's why I haven't reviewed movies in a while, is because I feel kind of odd talking about movies too in depth. But I'm going to start again, and this is going to be real simple. It's going to be like, I liked it or I didn't like it, and that's it. I'm not going to go off on anybody or say, you know, these people should never be allowed behind a camera again. No, man, make 6 more. Fuck it, go. If anybody will fund your movie in the future, go for it. You know, like anything else, you only get away with what they allow you to get away with. So go for it. But yeah, that's pretty much it. And Excalibur Films, I'm going to be digging into you a little bit and trying to find out exactly what's the deal with these DVD-ARRRRs. Are you supposed to be doing this? Or are you like the bootleg operation that I did business with years ago? They sent me VHS tapes with movies, which is where, ironically, I first saw the guinea pig movies. I saw those on a bootleg VHS. And it was like shaky and just really bad copying, but had dubbing. But it's what I had, so this kind of reminds me of that. So I'm going to find out, and I'll let you know. But until then, guys, thanks for watching. Always appreciated. Cheers. And I'll talk to you all again real soon.